Okay, let's get to China and Russia.
Okay.
Very interesting comment. Putin was asked that why did you not help Iran? So he turned around and said that we don't have a military alignment with Iran, and Iran never asked for help.
Yeah.
I said, why do you not condemn Israel, and why don't you not fight with Israel? He said, understand that there are a number of Russian-speaking people in Israel, and he gave some percentage also of it. So it throws all calculations awry that one, Russia doesn't want to get involved, and China, which was supposed to be aligned with Iran, doesn't get militarily involved. Maybe giving satellite imagery, maybe giving some supplies or something like that. In effect, the world turns around and says that, oh, okay, so the only military superpower is America. When there were all signs for it anyway, that military bases all over the world are by America, not by China. China plays a game which is different as compared to the US. But this new war has solidified the view that it's not G2 anywhere in the picture, is just one power, superpower, military superpower, and that's America.
Well, I mean, to my mind, yes. To push for to push for a world which is multipolar is probably more aspirational than reality. I would agree with the fact that yes, the world is quite unipolar in that sense. You know, if there is one real military superpower that can really sort of pull strings and get things done and really oust sort of leaders of the other countries, it's basically United States of America. The second thing, what has happened in Iran and Russia not coming for help. So let's discuss Russia first and then China. I think it was always meant to be, because this is not the first time Russia has not been able to sort of rise to the occasion. Because its ally is in trouble. We saw it the first time when Assad fell. Assad in Syria, when he fell like a pack of cards, okay?
Yeah.
Because Donald Trump became the president in December 2024. That's when he won the elections. And in a few days, Assad fell, okay? And Assad fell, and Russians had base there. Russian had a military, had an air base in Khmeimim, and they had a naval base in Tartus. In fact, from Tartus, they actually do a lot of, they call it Syrian Express, because they sort of replenish a lot of their capabilities for the Black Sea, to the Black Sea region and Crimea, from where they are actually targeting Ukraine big time. So coming back, the Russians could not help Assad. Assad was put in place, and Assad was able to remain in that position only because of overt Russian military support. Overt Russian military support.
But
it was
push
not
come to
covert.
shove?
But it could not, number one. So that was, I think, the first litmus test, and Russia could not, simply because it did not have the bandwidth, because the war in Ukraine, contrary to what everybody thinks, is in for the longer haul. I mean, it just entered its fifth year, so the pressure that it has created on Russia is also immense. We are able to see that. So that was the first litmus test. The second came, of course, by way of Venezuela, Maduro, when again it was very, very clear that there was this, will Russia do something, will China do something? Of course, China was always the economic player there, but Russia couldn't, and Maduro was taken in his night suit along with his wife.
Yeah.
And now he's in the US, right? I mean, he was not even given time to sort of change. Third was the 12-day war. In fact, chronologically speaking, the 12-day war
Earlier.
came first. Yeah, the 12-day war, when everybody expected something. Nothing much happened. This was again a direct confrontation, and this is the fourth time. So in quick succession, this is the fourth event when Russia has not been able to do it. Now, whatever Putin says, he's actually technically right that they don't have something like a NATO guarantee, or they don't have something like a full-fledged sort of a military partnership. But then Iran has sent thousands of Shahid drones to Russia, right, when Russia was at war. So it's very clear that Russia doesn't have the bandwidth, right? I don't think it has got to do with whether Russia wants to or not, but it doesn't have the bandwidth. Coming to China, China's nature is more dubious, because yes, primarily it is economic. It is about investments. It is about economic. It is about, playing the long game. Even in the 12-day war, And after that, and now, there are a lot of reports that China has sent not full-fledged platforms, but a lot of dual-use systems, a lot of components that can be used in making drones, etc., etc. And like I said, China's interest is basically, and their air defenses,
Like
of course,
they did
didn't work.
during Operation Sindhu.
Like they did with Pakistan.
Surreptitious help.
But in the case of Pakistan, it was much more clear. The PL-15s left nothing to imagination, right? It was satellite imagery and PL-15s and the multi-domain warfare exercises that they had been doing with Pakistan. With China, one doesn't see any evidence of them doing any multi-domain exercises or joint exercises like that. But what I'm saying is that they have been playing a bigger role. In fact, if you speak to a lot of military intelligence people in and around the region, they would say that yes, there is a lot of evidence that China has given a lot of support to Iran. But again, it's not that posits China as a military supplier, because China doesn't want to get into. That's not the game China plays, okay? And like I said, that for China, it is always about getting a real-time data from real-time battles so that they can sort of incorporate and improve, okay? So China plays a different game. But for
incorporate and improve for their own
military.
Their own,
yeah, absolutely, yeah. That is their quid pro quo with Russia also in the Russia-Ukraine war. So because China has never been to war with the West, right? So how does China then sort of develop and refine their own weaponry without battle-tested data? So that's how they turn to these battles. Like I've always give this example, and a very important one. So the Emiratis have been sourcing Chinese drones and giving it to Sudanese militia that are fighting against Houthis. Okay, so the Chinese drones are battle tested in that manner. Now, when it started out, everybody said no, but in a few years it got established. So even in the Iran question, you will see that in a few years things will get more established about how China used this sort of,
to be used against who? Some Himalayan blunder again by China, or is it the South China Sea?
Yeah, it could be both.
It could
yes,
be,
because
or Taiwan.
As far as we know, at least in 2027, the contingency on Taiwan doesn't look like happening. At least in 2027, because Xi Jinping has purged almost everybody that had to do anything with any planning of the Taiwan, contingency or taking it over by force. So I don't think in 2027 they can do it. That is why in India we were saying that wo jitna purge kare hamare liye utna acha hai, that way. But it doesn't mean that he's given up on that,
Okay.
Because military purges is something that Xi Jinping keeps on doing to consolidate power, to also sort of weed out corruption, to weed out anybody that has got any other sort of viewpoint. So it's been happening. He came in 2012, the first military purges started. Political ones happened in 2013, military ones happened in 2015, and ever since they've been coming in cycles.
Namaste, Jai Hind. You're watching ANI podcast with Smita Prakash.
अगर हम उसको मस्जिद कहेंगे तो फिर विवाद होगा.
The issue is टूटा है क्या भारत?
400 पार का मतलब ये है कि संविधान खतरे में है.
क्या हम लोग ये निर्देश देते हैं कि फला को गिरफ्तार करके जेल डाल दें?
वही तो कह रहे हैं सब.
ये बेबुनियाद निराधार आरोप.
सच्चा सुनना चाहो देखो स्मिता प्रकाश ANI. It does not lie.